Yeah, and I hope this will be brief, because you're taking away from my precious skiing time, you know. What to do is not just look at my paintings, because being an artist is more than the little pictures I produce. Everything that surrounded me is part of being an artist. So if you want to walk through my house, okay, now, just my wallpaper alone in the kitchen, what's more appropriate than fruits and vegetables. And so, especially if you're lousy cook, sure, people eat and they look at this, they eat this gray mass I give them, and then they look at this and they say, how good this is. So feel free to look around in my house. I have more than paintings. I have sculptures. Some of them I've made myself, and others are just found objects. That you know this piece of artwork, which has been done by nature, and nature is the greatest artist. These are 3 old fence boards. I've done nothing to them but mount them in this frame, and this has been created by nature. Paint, peeling paint, probably the sun hitting on it and all that, and it's marvelous abstract. Most everything I have, all my furniture, are things I've found that have been created accidentally. And then I'll show you my own paintings, who are really nothing compared to what nature has done. Here are some other forms. You know, I mean, if people would drapes, I found this. I don't remember where I found this. Probably on my walk along the railroad tracks. And I do nothing to them. I just bring them home, stick them on a nail, and isn't that pleasing? I really love that. Here's another one. I don't know. A nice shape, a nice form, you know. And how about that one? Then all in between, these are all my paintings. This is a bicycle wheel. And the title of this, all roads lead to Madison. Because this is the way the city of Madison is set up. You constantly get lost. Did you know that? Have you ever been to Madison? Well, I always get lost. And so, there isn't much here that you can find in a store. I'm trying to find something that you can find. This is a fish. It's a piece of slag that I found. I don't know. Is this film in color? Because there's gold and silver and green and red and is this in color?
Yes, it's
oh, good.
Color. I don't know if it would pick all that color out.
No, but there's so much to see here that you'd have to spend 2 days. Anything left over from one painting season to the next. This is where I used to paint. When I lived in the city, I paint city scenes and people. And then as I moved, when I moved to Bayfield, I started getting away from people. First, this is the first house I lived in. And then I started painting Lake Superior and evolved into what I'm painting now, which I've been doing for a long time, really. And I think it's about time I got out and go. Ha! and go, let's see, where can I go from here? Into the spiritual world. This is another piece that I consider artwork. I didn't do it. My daughter did it for me because all her life she knows how I like found objects. So for Christmas one year she went to the junkyard and found me all these springs. These are all different springs, forms of springs that she attached together that she found in the junkyard. And it's the best present I ever got because I really love it, because as you sit in here and the sun comes in the morning, it's not just the springs, it's the shadows. I mean, the show I get on this wall from these springs. Too bad the sun isn't there now. And then I sit there reading, and I just daydream, and I just gaze at all these. My house is so alive, although I'm here alone most of the time. I have a partner, but he has to go to work, and I can sit here and daydream. And so this is really, this is what everything is. It's just like, a partition. It just stirs your imagination. And this, by the way, is called, this is a little pun, bird in spring. Because see this bird here? He's caught in this spring. This is the egg I painted. Goose egg. Oh!
Where did you happen to get the goose egg from?
A friend of mine,
Locally?
parents from Illinois someplace, have a goose farm, and he came to me one time and said, hey, would you paint me a goose egg? And I threw him out. I said, get out of here. And then he insisted, and I did him, and then I did I had so much fun. Do you know what this is? It's another piece of sculpture. See, it takes people with an imagination. This is a ladder. Aha. That's a ladder.
Uh-huh.
So you don't recognize it, but if I tell you about it,
yeah,
then you'll recognize it. We had a wooden ladder that was broken. The top was broken, so we cut it off with a saw, and then burned it. And then when I hauled the ashes, this is the metal frame that was left from the ladder. The little things here.
Beautiful.
And so I took it out of the stove, just more or less the way I found it. And went to the shop and laid it on the shop and asked Ernie to weld it together, just the way I found it. And see, I think Picasso did the same thing. That's why people don't understand his paintings, because he sees it differently. I mean, people say, a ladder. Sure, they think of a ladder, those wooden things. Well, this is part of the ladder, but the parts they don't see.
What is that above your head, Denise?
That's a piece of glass from an old house. And this is a piece from a fireplace. And these are some chains I just hung on there. I mean, isn't that how Julia Childs does it with her cooking? She throws a little bit of everything in,
Are these some of your paintings on the...
No. This I found at the dump, by the way, in the Bayfield dump. I did. See, I walk a lot, so I find a lot of things. In fact, Neil, you've seen me when I walk, and I'm always carrying something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm carrying. All this junk that I find that I think is really great. So that's how I live. Now, how I paint isn't really important. Painting is secondary in my life, it seems like. Isn't that something?
Go ahead.
Okay, this is an old green shade.
Oh.
See? I'm going to make an artist out of him.
It's interesting.
And it's
Got
your card, yeah.
I'll be darned. Marvelous piece.
I mean, that's why, of course it's because I paint, but I'm not excited about art as much as people who are not involved in it, because I see beauty in anything. I just make my will, and I left all this to my daughter, and Ernie, who's my partner, said, I'm sure glad. He gets the bad. kitchen table and all that. And my daughter gets all these marvelous things. Do you want to follow me? Do you want to see my studio too?
Yes.
Okay, come on. I haven't painted, so I don't know if you want to see me paint. But here is my studio. And as you can see, I'm very neat. These are my brushes. Minimum. I don't use many brushes. My water. And this is where I do all my work. Oops. My easel. Put 2 paintings on there that I didn't finish recently, but gives you an idea what I do. I stand here, put on my smock. You can see my smock. And you have to see it because I've had it for 30 years. And I think it's my inspiration.
Have you been painting for 30 years?
I've been painting, yeah. I've been painting for 30 years. But I don't paint all year round. I only paint 2-3 months out of the year. My philosophy is sail all summer, ski all winter, and then paint in between. Well, you can do that when you live in this area. You know, it's the quality of the life you're looking for. I don't have many possessions, as you can see, and I don't need all that much money to live here. But I'm going to need more if Bayfield expands. And most people have a scrapbook. Well, this is my scrapbook, my wall. In fact, I bet you Carlin is on here. Anything I find in newspaper that relates to art or people I know in the arts, I put on here. That I haven't. Oh, here, this is from Korea. And see here, I get inspiration from, okay, this is part of a rag I painted on. You know, where my little figures in my paintings. I used to be known. Well, they're all accidental, you know. This was a rag I was painting on. And when I washed it, I saw this thing, so I made a circle around it, and that was one of my paintings. And see, what else do I... Oh, here's another thing. Oh, do you know where I get a lot of my inspiration from? From my easel. Okay. See here? See, as I look here, I see all these pictures, and then I just put a piece of tape around it, and see, this is the model of one of my paintings. In fact, no, I don't have it. It's a real nice painting, you know, because see, I see things differently than most people. Thank goodness. Otherwise, it'd be such a dull world. Okay. I have some parting words of wisdom. If you have children who are good in art, okay, who are very creative, let them be. Let them just get it all out of them. Don't send them to an art school right away, you know, because art cannot be taught. You know, it's an expression of what you have yourself. And then when that child is really interested and developed into what it's doing, and it gets stymied and it grows into an art, then go to a school. But a lot of parents make the mistake of their children are artists, send them to school. But see, a school is just guiding you, whereas art is an expression. And so let them express themselves first, and then if they need guidance, then they can go to an art.
She stayed here. I begged her to. I said, "Oh, Mary, I've never given it to her." Oh, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. I'm sure it's fine. Whatever you'd like to do, like, they are ready for dessert, but I can't. Okay, I can still,
You'll do fine. You'll do fine.
Hello. I'd like to welcome you to the inn. My name is Julie. I am here to deliver the verbal menu. I am your maitresse is my official name this evening. I'd like to give you the menu, and then your waitress will be Pat, and she will be back to take your orders. If you have any questions, please ask. Also, if you have any questions for me, also interrupt. Okay? I'd like to start with our soup course. We have 2 selections of soups for you to choose from this evening. Our first one we have is the mushroom burgundy soup. This is prepared with a clarified beef stock. It is also simmered with burgundy wine and fresh sliced mushrooms. Our second soup, the cream of spinach soup. This is a light creamed soup prepared with a clarified chicken stock base. It is then also blended with fresh spinach, flavored with basil and a hint of curry. The second course is the salad course this evening. We have 2 selections of salads for you to choose from. Our first one, the fresh fruit salad. This is prepared with fresh sliced bananas, fresh sliced strawberries and blueberries, served with a honeyed yogurt dressing. And our second selection, the green garden salad, made from a variety of fresh greens. We are also serving this topped with alfalfa sprouts, sliced tomatoes, and also sliced radishes, garnished also with our house creamy herbed Italian dressing. And then the entree course. There are 5 entree selections for you to choose from this evening. The first we have is called the trout au champagne. A fresh fillet of Lake Superior trout, poached in a court bouillon of champagne and scallions. It is then lightly browned under the broiler, served garnished with slivered almonds, fresh lemon wedges, and also served with a drawn herbed butter sauce. We also have this evening the cordon bleu, the 8-ounce boned breast of chicken, filled with the ground Virginia ham, sour cream, and Parmesan cheese. This is then rolled in sesame seeds and seasonings, and it is baked in a chicken stock. Served light hollandaise sauce and slivered almonds. We also have this evening steak bear steak. Our steaks are 9-ounce portions of prime top-wet sirloin steaks, grilled for you in a bear steak sauce, which is made with burgundy wine, fresh herbs, garlic, and butter. served to you garnished this evening with sautéed mushroom cap. We also have the entree, which is called the fruits de la mer en croûte. Fruits of the sea in a crust. It is a creation of Mary's. She begins it with a layer of fresh Lake Superior trout. It is then layered with pureed Nova Scotian scallops. We also have a layer of fresh spinach, and last we have a layer of fresh Lake Superior whitefish. These seafoods are then wrapped in a flaky phyllo pastry dough, and it is baked. We are serving it with fresh lemon wedges, and also the drawn herbed butter sauce. Also on the side, we are serving it with sautéed Nova Scotian scallops, lightly sautéed with white wine, fresh herbs, butter, and simmered with fresh garden vegetables. And the last entree, one more. We also have a southern style steak. The steak is occasionally called the carpetbagger steak. We use the same 9-ounce portion of the prime top butt sirloin steak, which will then be sliced and stuffed with sautéed Blue Point oysters. It is then also prepared for you, grilled in our Bercy sauce, garnished with these sautéed mushroom carrots. I should also mention we will also be serving some fresh home-baked breads for you. They will be served accompanying the salad course. Also, your entrees are all served on a bed of wild rice. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Bob Adams, who I guess you're filming later today, is commissioned by Jerry and me, does at least one window per year. We have 10 now in the house. This particular series, which is matched on the second floor, is made to look like the traditional Victorian Tiffany windows. The other windows in the house are all based on Japanese and Chinese themes, but these are in the style of Tiffany. Ten bedrooms here at the Rittenhouse Inn, and this is one of the king-size rooms. It originally was the nursery. The bed is built by Karl Savitsky of Washburn, and he's just a consummate woodworker. He's about 28 years old. This was the second major piece of furniture he ever built, and it's all made of antique black walnut. Carl's wife, Anne, is my assistant chef. So we've all been together a long time. This is another of Bob Adams' windows. This is his series on Oriental carpet. He's done 4 of these for Jerry. This particular one matches the pattern in the rug on the floor. The colors are the same also, blue and red. And this window particularly was made all out of antique salvaged glass pieces that Bob had collected. So the window itself is old besides the design. When we bought the house, there were gas lights everywhere, and my husband's a light collector, so we went out there and found gas and kerosene lamps for all the rooms. They are electrified. So this is one of the original ones, and it's a cranberry hobnailed lantern dating from about 1885. I'm sure we got our money for it.
They're all raised fine.
What are, let's see, what are, I want to get something.
Well,
that-
another tree in the other room, you know. Which I had out on the porch.
Oh yeah, I'll put one of these trees. I got that on there.
These all speak for themselves.
Yeah.
So
but-
it doesn't really need a narrative.
No, but
You
it'd be
kinda-
nice if someone said this is enamel
Yeah.
on copper.
This is a lovely little piece here.
Yeah. Individual pieces from a, see
How
from
about
a,
the stitching in that? That's really nice. I didn't use dialogue. You know, they speak.
Yeah, the lights don't work.
You'll edit some of this.
Oh, see, that big leaf.
It's pretty loud voice and you're in there.
one of the sculptures commissioned that the Care Gallery did. It's a memorial to the commercial fishermen of Bayfield.
We got water coming out. Yeah. We got some of the pipe.
This is just mixing up some a slip, something that we used to decorate with. Bob wanted to have something to decorate some of his pots with. This is just a way of mixing up the dry ingredients ahead of time.
One of the most frequent questions we have asked us here all summer long is, where do we get our clay? Actually, we buy our clay, and this is a mixture of 6 different kinds that we put together. It's a clay body that we've developed. It's our own, that we think serves us well. Actually, right now I'm kneading this clay body that has 6 different materials in it, and this is the most important step in the whole part of pottery making, because if you don't do this properly, all the other work that you do will be for naught. I think I've got this well enough kneaded now. Why don't you come over here and I'll throw this ball of clay and hope that it turns into a pot. You knead it, I hope. I throw it on the wheel, and this wheel, the process hasn't changed in thousands of years, except we do have an electric motor. There have been all kinds of devices for turning the potter's wheel, for people twisting it with a stick, pushing it with their feet, and running it with water power and everything else. But we've adapted it to the 20th century so that we now have an electric motor underneath it. Now ready to shape it. Uh-oh. My bat was slipping a little bit. I'm going to have to put a little clay and water under it to make sure. Because once it starts to slide, then I can't keep the clay in the middle. But I think we caught it in time. Everything that's done in the potter's wheel starts out with a cylinder or a variation of a cylinder. Now my wheel is controlled both by the knee, or I can adjust it by hand. The speed, that is. And right at this particular point, I'm still just drawing my cylinder, so that the walls at the top and the bottom will be the same thickness throughout. It usually takes 2 or 3 courses through the clay before the walls are pulled into the proper thickness. If the walls are uneven, you get an uneven amount of shrinking during the drying and firing stages. So you have to make sure that you have the proper thickness throughout the whole pot. One more time through, and I will probably be then ready to shape this. All right, we have the proper thickness, top and bottom, and now we'll start to give this some shape. see me pour water on it, but then I have to dip it out. If we leave too much water in the bottom will crack. But we do need the water to act as a vehicle on the side so there it'll slip, the clay will slip between our hands. Now the proper relationship to the size of the mouth and the lip, to the height and the belly and neck is extremely important.
Oh, here's the video cameraman. Is that on sound too?
Now I have the vase shaped. I'm ready to trim off some of the extra that I've left at the bottom. Now you need a little extra clay to give it strength while you're throwing. And now that I'm through throwing, or just about, I can trim off some of that extra. Now I can see my shape closer to its final realization, so I'm going to go back over this and give it a little final form. There are many ways of decorating a pot, and I'm going to just use a very old technique of painting it at this particular point with an iron slip. This is just a mixture of iron oxide or rust with a little bit of clay so that it will adhere to the pot. And after it is finally glazed, this color will come through, the contrast of colors will show. Next, I have just a very simple wire decorating tool that I'm going to use to add Alright, I have the beginnings of a pot. Actually, this particular vase won't be done for at least 2 weeks. There are 16 different steps that this pot will have to go through before it becomes a final product. So this is just tomorrow. I will have to turn this over, finish the bottom. I'll have to go through 2 firings, trimmings, glazing, decorating, and so forth. But there we are, a pot starting. This pot will have to be turned over and have a foot ring trimmed on it. After that, it will have to be dried very slowly and carefully so that it becomes bone dry, such as this particular pot is right now, before it goes into the bisque kiln. These are some pots that have already gone through the bisque kiln. Notice it's been thrown. There is a linear decoration put on it, and the bottoms have been properly trimmed. The next step is to glaze and decorate a pot. Well, the pieces you see in this particular room are all bisqueware. You see some that are stoneware and some that are porcelain. The white clay body are porcelain. My daughter does all the porcelain pieces. See if I could do manners, but we mix our glazes up, and this is a combination of materials that will adhere to the clay pot, expand and contract at the same amount, and then when it's subjected to a higher temperature fire, it will be become a glazed pot. Now you can see what the glaze looks like. It's just a very thick, heavy cream. That's a mixture of several different kinds of glazes and fluxes that will give you. We have to stir this up. There are several different ways of applying the glaze. The glaze can be brushed. It can be poured, such as I'm doing on the interior of this little vase. And then dipped to catch the outer surface. And there we have a pot that has had the glaze put on it. Another one here. A combination of pouring and dipping. I'm going to pour the glaze. Okay, now I have to do the inside. Have to wait and let this dry just a minute. With this particular clay and with this particular glaze and a variety of coloring oxides, we can get this spectrum of colors. So we have them posted on the wall so that they're here for reference for all the people that work here. This has to be done, of course, very carefully and directly. So now I have glaze on both the top and bottom of this platter. And because we work in the old traditional way, it's not an industrial process at all. These slight variations of thickness and of glaze application are part of what give the special characteristic to the handmade pot. It separates, these characteristics are what really are telltale and separated from an industrial pot, which is usually very carefully controlled, where we do it in a very spontaneous, exciting manner, the same as the very early Oriental potters used to do. This particular one is dry enough. I'm ready to put some color. If you'll remember, this particular pot had a texture underneath before I put the glaze on. But I know it's there and I can see a slight trace of it. So I'm going to add a color. Now this is a very bright color at this particular point. But after it's fired, this will change and become very soft and subdued. But I'm, in this particular case, just accenting the decoration that's already there. Now the glaze will melt and these colors will melt and they'll fuse together and they'll become part of the pot. Only, as I said, the colors will become very soft after it's fired. Use the two colors again. And paint a color along the top rim. And this glaze is a little bit wet now, wetter than we usually do it. But we'll go ahead and work with it anyway. Okay, this is going to become a flower design in the middle of the plate. And it's all done, except for a little bit of extra on the outside edge. And that's all there is to it.
I can't have the sun.
All right.
There. That's good to know. Maybe I'll take a... Maybe I'll... this here's significant.
Well, why don't you just kind of...
I think I'll take a picture of that.
all right, all glazes are lead-free. They're perfectly usable.
Okay, is there some pieces that you think would... maybe I'll just do
these
this...
blue ones would come out...
What did you call it?
Dee Dee does porcelain.
Oh yeah, let's go and say, then you just say, here's some of the porcelain that...
Here's all these... Now, here's two more.
Great.
Then you could say we do pie. We do... ladies go crazy over those penguins. So there we go. Flamingo? Taste flamingo? Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. Oh wow. But
So is that a special lantern?
yes, it's a light. This is for people who have everything. You put this next to your jacuzzi. But they have a light that goes different strengths, so you can go and change.
Oh, yeah. Great idea.
So there's a variety of sizes and shapes here. That's our mascot. It keeps all the evil spirits away.
Here we are at the studio of Kelly Randolph, who is an artist working in Washburn, teaching in the Drummond area, and he is actively pursuing photo silkscreen. So I'd like you to tell us a little about your work and how you do your photo silkscreen.
Okay. Photo silk screens that I do are a process of glue collages and photo stencils. And the photo stencil part is taking a photograph and actually placing it on a piece of clear film, which is then put onto a photo emulsion, which is placed onto the silk screen. And the silk screen, as you can see, is stretched on a wooden frame, which is porous, which allows the ink to be pressed through the fibers onto the paper. Right, this is an example of a photograph taken of the Bayfield Marina, and what it is it's printed exactly as you'd print a black and white photograph on a piece of clear photolith film. It's a high contrast film which allows the positive areas to be printed. And what happens is just the black areas will be printed on the silk screen. The areas that are not, the clear areas, will be blocked out by the photo emulsion when it's placed onto the screen. And what happens then is that you actually have a negative on the screen. Not, this is the positive, but the negative would be on the screen, and when it's printed, a positive image would come out, such as here, the white cloud areas were actually a photograph, which is here, which was printed through the ink process, through the photo stencil. The other parts, and here's a couple examples of other silk screens, are using a glue stencil, which is simply masked out with...
To get the different colors, do you have to... Is each color a process in itself?
Yeah, each color it's kind of an additive process. What I'll do is I'll start with a clean screen and mask out the whole entire area, the outside of it, and then mask out the white areas. And each color that I add on, I have to create a different screen for it by masking it out with the glue resist. In this one, the color of these areas, the mountains and the rainbow effect, are all done with a glue stencil, and the trees and the person skiing was done with a photo stencil. It's kind of like a collage process, rather than taking just a straight 16 by 20 Codolith negative, which is what I showed you before, and doing a color reduction process and doing 3 different colors. I like to take them and just arrange them in kind of a collage form, such as this one up here, which was one, it's actually just 2 photographs and then 8 by 10 photographs and flipped in reverse to fill up the area. And also using the glue stencil. And you can use the glue stencil not just for backgrounds, but to kind of create different scenes and feelings here. As far as just using the positive, you can use the positive and, Carlin, can you give me a hand? You can use the positive and the negative forms of the Codolith, which I've done in this particular one. And then you can also take one Codolith, cut it into a series of parts, and then just adapt them to make a design and come up with kind of a kaleidoscope effect. Let's see, what else do I have in here? This particular one was taken from a composition of 2 photographs from Isle Royal, which is Mosky Basin here, once again reversed, and then Lake Besor shooting down, and then having the glue stencil blocking out certain areas. On a picture like this, how many hours are involved in creating something of this nature? A lot of hours are spent in the actual layout and design, and just how well the color combinations are going to work together to make sure that you are overlapping the correct colors and not having to print a light color over a dark color, in which case what you've already printed won't show up. So those things have to be planned out ahead of time. I usually try to print 1 color a day when I'm working on an edition. And this particular print here has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 different colors into it, which probably put about 6 days into it. I don't like to work at it constantly because I do use chemical inks, which are very hazardous to your health. And we do vent the area when we're printing, but it does still, I don't like to breathe lots of toxic fumes, so we just try to limit that amount of time.
And how many of this picture would you do? How many do you normally do of any one sequence?
I usually do small editions, usually about 25 prints. And there's 2 reasons for only doing 25 prints. The simplest explanation is that's the number of pieces of paper that come in a package. And the second one is, after doing 25, I get bored with it and want to move on to the next color to see how it's shaping up.
You're now viewing some artwork by Diana Randolph, partner of Kelly Randolph, the artist that we just met. And Diana likes to work on the scene from actual beauty that surrounds us here. And a little bit later we're going to go down and visit Diana down at the lakeshore where she is working live on a painting. We want to use this opportunity while we're in her studio to look at some of these pieces that she's been working on. Up here we have some pieces that were completed this winter, and they were part of the Dance of the Season series that she was involved with.
So, I think what we'll do now is we'll just have you out here working, and then he'll come in and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Okay, Bob, you go over there.
Hi. Fancy meeting you here. Well, this is my first time out for the season, and as you can see, it's a little chilly out here. I'm looking at Chequamegon Bay here in Washburn, and this is one of my favorite places to paint. I was attracted and drawn here several times this past summer, and I like to catch it and see it during all the different seasons because it looks so different. There's so many different colors. And I love painting outside on location. In the winter, I paint looking out of window views. I go to some friends' houses and do that. But since it's a little warm out today, I wanted to catch some of the springtime coming, the spring in the air. And I'm working with pastels, which is my favorite media. It's real portable. And I have a lot of different colors here that I use. I have them separated in 3 parts here, which are the 3 different values I work with. So there's a lot of different colors of 3 different values: light, middle, and dark. And that helps me when I paint. I don't have to think too much about what I'm doing, and I can just respond to how I feel about the landscape. Paintings, after they're finished, I present them in different ways. I present them by framing them and showing them in galleries and art shows. And another way I presented them was working with a couple of area artists, Warren Nelson and Sally Kessler, who work in different media. Warren is a poet and a songwriter, musician, and Sally is a pantomime artist. And we called our project Dance of the Seasons, and we took slides of my work and projected them onto a screen and incorporated dance and music and poetry to my work. So it's a brand new form for me working with other artists of different media, and it's a real challenge, and it's just a different expression. The paper that I work on is a sanded pastel paper, and if you look on the back, it looks just like sandpaper. It has a real rough texture. You can almost file your nails on it. And it holds the pastel, which is a chalk, the pigment in chalk form. And it just holds it, and you could put color upon color and work in a painterly fashion without the colors just falling off. So I like to paint in lots of layers, a lot of colors, because that's the way I see things. I see a lot of colors upon color in nature. And that's what I'm trying to express here.
friend Art at the Windmill Gallery, and I'd like you to meet Peg Sand. Peg is going to take us around and show us.
The sculpture up towards the front of the gallery is called Maiden Flight. It's done by Sarah Baldwin, an artist from the Cable Drummond area. It's made out of stainless steel and stained glass, not stainless steel, steel that has been torched out and then with the stained glass insert. I have 3 other steel sculptures by Sarah Baldwin called Offering to a Crane. Glass
work is done by Peter Sockness of Washburn and Julie Cool of Drummond. The larger pieces are done by Peter, and I just have a few of the small ones by Julie. The gallery at this point has over 60 artists that it represents. Some of the paintings on the wall are done by people of Ashland, Connie Chase, Gerard Costa, Joe Groshek from Washburn, Lola Stevens, Peg Sandin. Moving along, there is an oil painting by a fellow named Lyle Lancer who lives by Hayward. Some of Kelly Randolph's work. Oil paintings by Cheryl Tessner, Dorothy Morrow. Watercolors and oils by Donna Lonnie. Some pastel work by Diana Randolph. Just to mention a few, there are a lot of other artists that we're passing by that I haven't mentioned. No. Along with the main gallery, we have a back room which is a studio space which we use for giving small classes and where artists come and paint. And I'd like to take you back there now and introduce Ashland, who have their work on display in the gallery. First artist I'd like to introduce you to is Eleanor Janglebach, who is a portrait artist who spends a lot of time teaching in the gallery and does really fine portraits in pastel.
The work that I have in the preliminaries, I have been working from the girls posing, but of course they are not here now, and I'm just working on the composition primarily, and they will return and pose later so that I can finish the work in pastel. This is naturally in charcoal, and I will be working in pastel on paper for the finished work.
Is this a commissioned piece then?
Yes, the commissioned work of the two sisters.
And how long have you been doing this type of work?
I've worked with pastels, I suppose, as long as I can remember. I can remember doing portraits when I was a teenager, and then I began working into other media and trying to sample everything. Ended up teaching junior high school art and college art, and have gone full circle now, and I'm back on my own and doing portraits in pastels, just as I had started back when I was a teenager.
And were you from the Ashland area?
No, I'm a Floridian.
The other artist I'd like to introduce you to is Donna Lonnie, watercolorist and oil painter.
I'm working on a painting right now that I'm at the most difficult part because I'm trying to finish it. And there's not much left to do, so that's really the most difficult part of the painting for me, is deciding when to quit. And there's just a little bit left to do on this, and I'm just trying to solve a couple problems that I see in it.
What problems do you see? Can you point out some problems?
Well, I think this area here is just a little too much of one value, and I don't want to darken it. I want to keep a light area up there, but I think I'm going to have to put in a little bit of wash of pink or something there, very subtly. And then I'm not too pleased with this area here, and I'm not quite sure what I'll do with that yet. I think I'm going to add some of the dark purple over there too. And I still have some stems to put in there, but like I said, this is the most difficult part of the painting for me, when I'm just about done, and I have to make some critical decisions, and I don't want to ruin what I've done so far. I'm working from, I have some photos that I use of flowers from my own garden, and most of the flowers that I paint I've grown myself, and an oil painting that I just finished I did of hawsers up in Bayfield, they have a perennial garden up there where they sell perennial flowers, housers, and then grow them and then paint them. So this painting is kind of a thank you to them, I think, because I just love going up there and seeing their fields of flowers. Painting I'm having quite a bit of trouble with, and I started one, and then I started another one that I hope to work on both of them simultaneously. I've almost given up on this one a few times, but I guess I'm going to keep at it. It's the darks that are difficult for me in this painting. But this is just, these are some plants that I found growing in a lake around here, one of the local inland lakes, and they made such beautiful reflections in the water that that's why I wanted to paint them. I guess they're kind of a nuisance plant, but they're really beautiful. So that painting isn't quite as far along as this other one that I've been working on.
4 or 5 times a year, the gallery features an artist on one of the walls. This time we have Suzanne String from Melanin, who has just completed a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree at Superior and has brought many of the works that she had to do when she completed her degree. The gallery tries to feature artists, either local or we will be having a regional show from the state of Wisconsin, which ought to be kind of fun in May, and have a few other shows scheduled for the rest of the year already. The work down here.
More food from it. Blend around. Yeah. Or maybe I'll put some stuff hanging over it. Depends, right? Just stretch. Maybe nice to get about this. It'd be nice to find the plastic to make this stuff out of.
Yeah.
In this, you gotta be quiet.
Well, hello. We happen to be in the studio of Dave Gensler, who not only works in two-dimensional media, he also works in sculpture. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your work.
Okay. As Carlin says, I'm a two-dimensional artist as a painter and a sculptor. Sculpture and painting. I tend to experiment a lot with my work. I'm experimenting right now with some plastics, resin, and pigment. And this is just a prototype of this. And the way I came to do that is I started painting on glass. And I'm trying to find a piece of artwork here and just paint it directly on the back side of glass. Oh, just have one right here, or has happened. And this is the paint on the glass a little bit. And this is a project that I started about 3 years ago, and you can see these are all painted on glass. These are just all the experimental. I got, they're all over the place. I got all that glass in a bucket of water trying to get the paint off. That my art is experimental. And my paintings are real experimental. I work in sculpture. I work on-site type pieces. I build things out of plastics or industrial waste, a lot of industrial waste. I'm building a sculpture coming up this week in the Milwaukee Museum of Art of more industrial waste. There's a wood plant down in Ogama, Wisconsin, who makes yardsticks, tongue depressor toothpicks, and paint paddles. And they throw away this wood by the ton. And I'm building a sculpture about maybe 1,000 of these. Something that looks similar to that. Hopefully. It's going to be about 10 by 10. Bucket, aluminum foil, what else? Paper, a lot of paper, large sheets of paper, or paper from the James River plant, which everybody has great abundance of rolls and rolls of paper. Other information, about myself around this area. What else do you want to know? Right now, we're dealing with the plastic art. More peeled off the black. I haven't perfected it yet, but I will soon. Some passwords. One I've been working on for months. I haven't finished yet. My pigs, which I haven't even touched for a month. Part of the whimsical side of myself, I guess. Someday I want to have a show of all the animal paintings I've done, because I've done a large number of animal paintings, but sometimes it contradicts with the kind of paintings that look like this. Or semi-realism versus total abstraction. It's just people, how can you do that? You just stay in one vein, but I say, that's all I say. Here's a chicken painting which has been around the Schwamigan Bay many times and hung in many places. World famous. Is this color? Oh, good. I'm doing a series of these. This is the first. I got a series of turkeys. I'm going to be doing 2 turkeys next. I have a friend who had raised turkeys last year. Oh, Carlin, you had that turkey for that party.
Here's what they're like.
Let's put it on the photograph. Well, this could be a fun thing. Quality. But there are. Lots of them. Hanging in the kitchen is one of the glass paintings that just came out of a show in Duluth. And the Tweed Museum bought this for their permanent collection. That's one of the glass paintings. The rest of the glass paintings are in Duluth, all being photographed right now. So, making prints and slides so I can take them to the big city. That was the first one I had total control on. This one, the colors.
And here we are inside of my little shop that I started about 17 years ago. And we feature the work of about 5 potters who also work here in the studio area. And then we have some other artists that I'd like to show their work and tell you a little bit about what they're doing. I guess we can just start with some of the things that I enjoy doing. When I first started, I worked almost exclusively in pottery and oil painting. And now, I guess I'd have to say my greatest passion right now is working in watercolor. I've only been involved in watercolor for about 5 years. For example, this watercolor here kind of shows my love for the area. I was actually born and have lived all my life in Washburn. So I especially enjoy painting rocky landscapes and some of the florals, weeds, that kind of thing. I also enjoy working with some of these large pottery forms. In this particular one, what I'm trying to do is make all these glazes overlap and have the effect of a kind of abstract landscape. Okay, these are some pottery, stoneware and porcelain that's been created by Dave Ricard, one of our full-time potters. And over here we have some work. In this section over here, I have all of the work by Leslie Falconer. And one of the things she does that's so unique is her photo silk screens. These are all images from the area that she photographed. And then through a very technical, difficult process, she's been able to reproduce that on the surface of the pot. The work in this area represents Andrea Falconer Brown. It's actually Leslie's sister. She does some really beautiful designing on her pieces. Another artist in our shop is Pat Jewett. And the unique thing about Pat's work is that she does all of this work hand-built. The rest of us all work with a potter's wheel. But all of these pieces were constructed by hand, either with a slab roller or coils. And Pat is quite a decorator too. These pieces are also unique in that they're earthenware. You know, most of us work in stoneware and porcelain. You'll have an opportunity to meet Pat when we go back into the studio area. Thought I'd point out my rent-a-painting policy here for any artists who might be watching. If you haven't thought about doing this, you might consider it. I started this program about 2 years ago and have already rented something like 160 paintings. It's been a delightful way to get paintings into the home of everybody from students to retirement people at an affordable level. This is Pat Jewett working in her studio. Hello. Pat, could you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
I'm working on a piece of sculpture. It's going to be part of a lunar series. Sculpture is my first love with clay, although I've been working on some more functional pieces of pottery. Tiles is also another realm of working with clay that I'd like to get into. Here's another piece over here, another sculptural piece that I've just completed. It's not fired yet. This is Marta. She's a coffee picker. We in this shop in particular and this country in general have been drinking some pretty exquisite coffees and I thought I would pay tribute to where they come from and who does the work and getting them to us. The sculptural pieces are going to be fired in a traditional sawdust firing where they'll be covered with sawdust and smoked for a few hours, and the pieces will come out black. This is a traditional method of firing pots, very old. It's the potters in the Southwest use it.
We're going to do this guy next. This is Dave Ricard working in his studio. Dave, how'd you like to tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
Well, basically, I'm making casseroles this morning. The business of pottery is basically I make several similar vessels as quickly as possible, but at the same time making them the same. Measuring for a lid right now, it has to be fit quite closely. And that's about the extent there is to throwing a pot. Throwing the ball of clay on the wheel. To bring the clay on to a perfect center, and then squash it down. Bring it out.
studio home of Art Bloomquist. Art, would you tell us a little about your work?
Well, I do mostly all watercolor now. I used to do oil, but I got into watercolor, and I really liked it. And my mother was a watercolor artist, and her sister, and they used to live in Bessemer, and they painted also. And so my mother always used to want me to try watercolors, and I said, no, that's a woman's medium. And so then finally I did when the abstract painting came in, and I did an abstract in watercolor, and then I got first place in Madison on it. I still have the picture upstairs, and I was really gotten interested in watercolors, and you're free flowing, and you can just move your whole arm when you paint, and you do it a picture so fast you can't overwork it, because if you do it, then it starts to get muddy, just like oil when you overwork things. So I don't know. And I went down, I noticed the box trap was tripped, so I went down there and I saw a great big thing. It looked like half a dozen rabbits in gray. And I said, my goodness, how could I get half a dozen rabbits at one time? And so then the neighbor boy came over and he says, what do you got, Art? And I told him, and he said, oh, leave it there, don't let it out. He says, until my mom and dad comes over and see it. And it was, and we had about 15 people there surrounded from the neighborhood here. And so I happened to lift the cover up, and she opened her one eye, and a big yellow eye pierced out at it. And so then the boy said, I'll open the cover, because I had my Kodak, and then you can get a picture of it. And so he got behind the box, and he lifted the cover, and the owl, the horn owl, jumped up on the lever of the box and spread his wings 4.5 feet out. And I said, holy man, look at the paws on that thing. And I thought, gee, I was scared. I thought he'd maybe come after me. But I was so nervous trying to hold the camera on it. And finally snapped it right when I closed his wings up. I snapped the picture. And then I thought I'd catch him when they're flying. But when you saw him flying, it was flying towards me and up in the air and over and circled around and went away. So he was all right. And I've always wanted to paint an owl. Rock. It was on this east of Big Rock. He was on the highway, and he was eating a rabbit. And I had my sister along with me, and so I slowed up and pulled over in sort of a sand quarry there and parked. And she went out in the meadow, and she left the rabbit on the roadside, and she went out in the meadow and was waiting for us to pass by. And we didn't pass, so I had my camera out, and I went out close, and as close as I could get to him, I saw that he was getting fidgety. He was going to run off, so I thought, well, I'll better take his picture. And he got a nice expression on his face.
Are most of your paintings done from a picture you've taken, or are they done in...
Yeah, I take them snapshots around. I used to go out and paint, and mosquitoes and flies and the wind and so forth. So I decided to, I see most all the big artists in the country, they have a gallery, or they have a studio where they paint, and they sketch a few pictures out in the countryside and bring their work in and elaborate on it. Canadian geese, when they came up Bayfield area, most of the boats are in the harbor, and I very seldom get around there when they're out in the water sailing around. So I take them out of the harbor, and where they're tied up, and put the sails up on them, and put them out in the water. So I saw quite a few boat pictures. It's an interesting thing. One lady came in, she saw her boat in the Bayfield Inn, and she said, "Oh my gosh!" And she ran out. She says, she's looking for her husband. He was walking up and down the street with somebody, and so she finally caught up to him, and I told him, I said, our boat's in the gallery, or in the Bayfield Inn. And so they came back, and the picture was gone. And she couldn't understand, and she asked the proprietor there, and she said, well, maybe we were selling a picture at the pavilion down there. We had a show down there. And she said, go down and see Mark Lundquist down there, and he'll probably tell you where the picture is. And I told her, I said, if it isn't in the Bayfield Inn, it's gone. Somebody liked the picture of the boat, and just bought it. Oh, she just couldn't believe it. She said, that was my boat. She said over and over again, well, what in the world do they want my boat for? So it's interesting to take pictures of boats. So then I take orders from people that come in. They want to know if I can paint their cottage or a picture of the cottage or some scene at their home town. And I said, sure, you just send me a snapshot, a color snapshot, so I can get an idea of the color of your buildings and so on. And then I'll paint it for you and give them the prices that I generally charge. For 16 by 20 is $65 framed, and so on like that, but they're matted.
Okay, we're at the home and studio of Cheryl Tepner right now. Cheryl, could you tell us a little about your work?
This is the first landscape painting that I did after moving here from Madison. In Madison, I had been a sculptor. And when I moved up here, I became more involved with the landscape and with painting. So this painting was done in 1980. So that's 5 years ago now. But I have been doing landscape since then. And my studio is in my kitchen, right over here in the dining room. Just a small corner. Diana Randolph is here today painting. This is her easel, and she's doing a pastel. These are some oil sketches that I've done looking out the windows at the landscape. There's this one, and then here's two more. The rest of the images are paintings of old master paintings that I really like. This is a photograph of a painting that I want to develop along the lines of something like this. The three boys. All of these pictures are from the yard around the house. Okay, this painting dates from 1982, and it was at Christmas time. I had been taking pictures outside at night. This has a special significance for our family because this is our boys' room, and we have 5 girls. So this was the last child in the family, and it was a boy. So, so his light is on. The Christmas lights are on. The remnants of the summer playing. But mostly I was interested in the patterns of the light and dark. And this is a painting that I'm working on right now. I would say it's about half finished. Our Pekin ducks and the silo, the part of the barn. We have 5 sheep. I had taken some apple peelings out and given the sheep a bowl of apple peelings, and the light on the snow was exceptionally beautiful at that time of day. This was early in the winter, about 4:30 in the afternoon, just before the sun sets. Diana Randolph's been coming over here for about 2 months now, and we've been, I guess she has prompted me more and more to look out of the window at the landscape itself rather than work strictly from photographs. Which is how the oil sketches came about, and today I've started a large painting actually looking at the landscape.
in the backyard. And you want to go over by where the wood pile and the barn is? I guess my main goal is to live in this beautiful area and paint with the freedom that I have here, and have my paintings be on the marketplace in Minneapolis and Chicago and eventually New York. To be able to wrap a painting and send it to New York by Greyhound and have it sold there and accepted in the galleries, and then walk down to my mailbox and collect the
We're at the beautiful log home and studio of Bob Adams right now. Does work in stained glass.
Well, I more or less started working on glass after traveling in Europe and seeing some of the windows in cathedrals there. And from then it was just reading books and practical experience from then on.
I noticed your glass here, do you have that divided up by colors?
Well, this is by color and textures. This glass here is all in blues with smooth textures. Here you're getting into pink, but you're getting into the rippled textures, the drapery glass. And then getting down below here is what they call model glass. Or cat's paw, the little fractures of light and dark mixed into it. So the glass is all arranged basically by color and texture. And then the probably the last type of glass would be what's called antique glass. And that's all mouth-blown glass. Imported from Europe. It's called a cartoon. Your initial drawing is done here, and each piece is numbered and color-coded as to how I want to choose the glass. Then I make little markings as to the direction of the flow of the grain in the glass. From here, I'll make a template by putting a piece of mimeograph or carbon paper underneath it, draw that onto tag board, and then cut out each one of these little pieces, lay it on the glass, and then cut the corresponding piece in glass. And then from there, it's laid onto my workbench and leaded up into the window. This is the finished product to the cartoon that I just showed you on the floor. And these are the individual pieces that have been assembled and held together by the lead channeling. And the nets, what I've chosen to do here is using copper wire. I've just wired each piece in there and then soldered them onto the lead channel. The theme for this window would be commercial fishing.
Is this piece sold?
This will go to the Rittenhouse. Bayfield for Mary and Jerry Phillips.
And are most of your things done on commission, or?
All my work is done on commission. This one here is a 2-series window, and the theme for that was music. This also goes to the Rittenhouse in Bayfield. Byzantine mosaics. So I've chosen that and incorporated it with the theme of music. Doing a cartoon, I'll do a watercolor to get an idea of the shadings and the colors. And this is the product right there. These are 2 lamps I made several years ago. They're made with a copper foil. What's unusual about both lamps is every piece has been cut and slumped in a kiln to get the rounded effect of the lampshade, the flowingness of the lamp. Along in here, all these pieces are been slumped in the kiln. That gives it the even flow of the length of the shade.
In the workshop of John Meidel, the owner of Joiner's Hand. And John, could you tell us a little about your work?
Well, I do pretty much custom furniture and some kitchens, and we also make some furniture that we're putting out in the showroom in the summers. This thing right here is a job that was ordered from a person in Chicago, and it's going to become a trestle base that goes behind this, or underneath this big walnut top that you can see across the workshop there. A bunch of cherry and maple, and I try to get as many of my woods locally as I can. It's becoming increasingly difficult to find cherry up here, and so I've been going into Michigan to buy most of it. Some of the plywood that you see across the room is ordered out of Minneapolis, and that's predominantly used in kitchens, and this batch is going to be used in a store fixture job that I'm doing in Bayfield. A lot of times when you get rough lumber, you have to plane it and then glue it up to make larger boards, sort of a process of taking a long board, cutting it up and making it smaller, then to make it larger again. In this case, these are steps for a circular stairway that's going out on Hungry Hill. And what you see is the stair treads that have been glued up a couple days ago, and then now I'll belt sand them and turn them into the risers. The reason I came to this area, I used to live in Minneapolis and made furniture there, but the pace was so hectic and the demands were so great as to scheduling and getting everything done exactly on time that I was looking for a more easy type pace of life, and that's essentially the reason I came. Anxious about when they get things, as long as it ends up being what they.
It's equipped with the potter's wheel, and we do have a kiln that has been used over the years. Lately, it has not had much use. We don't have a potter in residence, and the people that do here don't really know how to work it. We also have a fully equipped wood shop that does get a lot of use. As you can see, there is a puzzle
nativity scene that was made in the wood shop. We have many different types of saws. We have a lot of tools, a regular workbench. We also have what we call the loom room, which is where we are right now. All of our stuff is set up in here. The loom room is full of... This is our loom room. In our loom room we have 7 floor looms. We have been using them mostly for rug making. However, in the last couple of years we have started branching out and doing much more with fine weaving, some wool scarves, placemats, long table runners, that kind of thing. What the girls, the ladies, are doing right now is what we call warping the loom. To prepare the loom for weaving, this is how we wind the warp on. The warp is 100% cotton, rubbed warp. What they're doing is winding on so much yardage. There's 2 people warping this loom right now. Normally we do use 3. There are so many variables involved. It's just incredible. There's so much room for mistakes that, boy, we just jump up and down when we don't make a mistake doing this. What we're doing, they'll wind on about 55 yards of this cotton warp. They'll fill each of those spools with this warp. This particular loom will have solid stripes. It's kind of hard to visualize, so I'll kind of show you right here. What they're doing now is what they call the multi-colors, and then we're going to be adding 2 solid stripes. So that's why they're kind of jumping along here with the different sections. When they're done doing the warping, then we will, what we call, tie on what's here, will be tied on to what's hanging here, and eventually, let's go over here, eventually it will look like this, the finished product, with all the strings going through the heddles, and then it's ready to start weaving. Then we make our rug. So at one time, with one warp job, we can make anywhere from 10 to 15 rugs without stopping. You'll make a rug. One rug stays on the loom all the time. So when they do take rugs off, you'll end up with a whole string, maybe 3-4 rugs. By the time you take them off, that's when you cut them and separate them and tie your knots, and you have a finished product. What Lori is doing is she's just started a new rug. We start a rug first by what we call a tabby. This is a very fine weave. You use the same cotton warp that the loom is warped in to kind of close the rug and hold it in tight, so when this gets cut off it won't unravel, and it just holds everything nicely in place. Then we put a piece of cardboard in, which is the fringe, and then we'll actually just start weaving. And Lori can show you, she's using her feet to lift up the different petals, which is separating the strings. She's doing what we call just a tabby weave right now. It's just 2 petals, just opposite strings come up each time. It's your very basic, simple weave. She will continue this way until she has the rug the length that she wants. She may want to change colors. As you can see in the rug underneath, there are stripes put in. She can do whatever she wants with stripes, with pattern. These looms also have other petals, so you can make a patterned rug. Whatever. Anyway, she'll keep going until she's made this rug. She'll end it the same way that she started this one, and then she will cut off all the rugs that you see underneath here. As I said before, you must always leave one rug on to keep the strings tight and secure. The rest of these rugs will come off then, and as I said, they'll be cut and tied and ready to go. There are some finished rugs in the basket there that we have on display. All winter long we do this. We weave a lot. Some summers have had over 300 rugs to sell in the shop. This year we're going for the same goal. We sell every rug that we make, so we can't keep up with it. Kelly and Sharon working on now is a hand-built loom, one of the first that was part of the craft shop. We have, originally they did use it for rug making and some sweater, well, I won't get into it, a different type of weaving. What we've been using it for lately is our wool scarves, placemats, finer weaving. It's a harder loom to use, so we've gotten into using it for a different type of weaving. what Kelly and Sharon are doing now is what we call actually threading the heddles. They are threading for the pattern that we will be using for the object that we make, whether it be a scarf or placemat or whatever. This is what you usually do. What most weavers do is each time they warp the loom, they do rethread it each time. As you saw earlier, when we do the same process over and over again, we end up just retying rather than rethreading each time that we warp. This is when you get good at it, it's a fast process. It makes for much bigger variation in what you're doing. You can change your pattern all the time. However, it does take a lot of know-how, and you do get much better with it with experience. Looking at now is our newest purchase. This loom can be warped up to 60 inches wide. So it's equipped to make very big area rugs or very nice fabric yardage. Right now we are using it for rugs. It is warped at 45 inches wide, and we are having a lot of fun with it. We have sold some very nice, very big rugs with it. We're anxious to get this warp off and get a new warp on. You just can't do enough. You know, you get started with one thing and you have new ideas for another thing. The people that started the craft shop in the early 50s were the Reverend and Mrs. Schradel. They originally got the craft shop going to give the island people something to do, something creative, constructive to do in the winter months, the long, cold winter months, and then be able to turn around and sell what they did during the winter in the summer to make a profit, to help their materials, to make it worthwhile, not only to come in here and have it be a social time, a greeting time, a fun time, but also it did help put money in their pocket. Now the craft shop is still affiliated with St. John's Church. However, it is independent. We are self-supporting now. Over the last couple of years, we have made enough of a profit to be able to pay for our own repairs, our own additions, whatever the craft shop needs, we can now pay for it ourselves. The people that work here on an individual basis. They do own whatever they make, although we do pay a percentage to the craft shop. Most people that work here do sell their goods right back through the craft shop. It is open in the summer months from May until October on a regular hourly basis. The shop is full of a variety of home handmade items, most of them locally, from people that live right on the island or that live here in the summer months. It's a beautiful shop. You won't believe the change in what it looks like now as a loom room to what it looks like as a sales room. We have a lot of fun with it. I think this year there are about 5 women that are weaving continually. We have one male recruit this year who is having a really good time with it. It's nice to have people come in and see that it is fun and that it isn't a stereotype thing and that anyone can do it. The craft shop is open to all island residents at any time. We encourage their interest in their activity. I did mention we do have a pot shop, a mudroom. We do have the woodworking shop. At one time, there were many other activities. There was a photography shop. There was a rock cutter and polisher. There was just so many things. They had quilting bees. They had upstairs. There was a shuffleboard on the floor. They used to have potlucks here. At one time, it really was smear tournaments.
Smear tournaments. Fun.
They used to have potlucks, card games.
Smear and euchre.
It would be nice to see the craft shop get back into that. Make it really.
We are at Sir James Brass Rubbing Center.
And I want to explain how I got into this. Primarily, a lady in Duluth brought in a brass rubbing, and I had never seen one in my life. And in checking it out, I realized it was a brass rubbing. And when I went to England, I made up my mind to look into that and do some brass rubbings, which I did. And in England, they have these plates. These are brass plates. They're replicas of people that have died, and they're buried in the churchyard or in the churches themselves or in the walls. And people did brass rubbings from the originals. These are reproductions of the originals, and that's what they use now at all of the rubbing centers in England, at Westminster Abbey and many, many others. And I bought these and brought them back to Bayfield for an experience here. $1 worth of these plates. You see some here are framed rubbings that have been framed to show what they look like. It's okay. It's rather simple to do. We have a special kind of paper that is stretched tight over the brass in this manner. I'll just turn it over to face it down. The rubbing, you run over the outline with your fingers first, just to get some idea of where your limits are and where there might be indentations. And this is a wax stick that is used for rubbing. They have them in various colors. And all you do is be very careful to stay inside of that line that you've formed with your fingers, rubbing along the image. And just go over very firmly with the stick. And you see the picture coming out. Can you get that? And you continue to rub it until you're satisfied that a depth of wax has accumulated on the paper so that it will hold the image. And that gives you an idea, just the face, and you can go over the whole figure in that manner. That I did in England at Westminster Abbey and brought it home with me and had it framed by professional frame shops. And here is another one over here. This one was done not at Westminster Abbey. This was done at Canterbury, at the Canterbury Cathedral, and brought home. Is one of the very earliest that they have in their collections today. And this is John Doberman, and it was done for him when he died in AD 1327. Can I sit down? We used to do these brass rubbings at the Harbor Gifts and Antiques, and we had a good play on them. But it got to be a little too much for me, so we have them here now at Harbor's Edge Motel, and our guests are free to do them on their own and without charge, and they can take them home and frame them and do what they want with them. It's just one of those things that we offer.